hand you've unearthed. I know we're in a country last night, and I believe we were the only media, only people in the media last night to pick up and run with the story of what is happening to Jeff's hand. I mean, is it still there? Has he still got one, or is it just a withered stump now waiting for the titanium to be welded on in the morning?
Well, my understanding is that all the flesh has been stripped from the wrist down.
Yes.
As part of exploratory surgery by Bruce. And you know, when Bruce gets exploring, he can get carried away. I think he wanted to have a look at the knuckles, so he just pared away the flesh, saw the knuckles, liked what he saw.
And then went on. In
terms of, doing a book down the track of interesting cases I've done by Bruce Shepherd, or interesting fists I've examined by... There's Eugene Goosen again.
He's back with us.
He's back with us, yes. And then he just carried on. So it's just skeletal. Yes. Now, beautifully clean with an airbrush, with an air gun. He's aired off everything. So, I mean, that hand could be left somewhere on the scene of a crime and we'd have the hand but no DNA or anything on there that could identify who was the person from whom this hand has come. Yes. It is absolutely dead set, pristine, clean. Now, what he's going to do with it from here on in, I don't know, is anyone's guess. My feeling it will be the titanium over the top, which will give it no movement whatsoever.
Gloved?
It'll have to be gloved, as we mentioned last week. It'll have to be bent, glove, put titanium on first, and while it's still molten or what would be the word, malleable, it's able to be beaten into a shape. The glove goes on, and then through the glove, it's pounded into a fist shape. And I hope they use a reasonable, high-quality Everlast glove, because it'd be a bugger if it broke or tore and had to be changed. Because you'd have to do it... Well, I don't know what you'd do. You'd have to get the welder out, I suppose, and weld the titanium loose and get it back out again. But it will limit him in terms of toiletry behaviours. But I think it's a sacrifice Jeff is prepared to make for that elusive fourth title. Yes. He won't be able to wipe, but he'll have 4 belts. And on balance, you'd have to say the 4 belts do look attractive. And it's always a talking point you carry around with you for the rest of your life. In terms of, manipulating cutlery, with a fork or something like that, you might have a bit of room there just to wedge it in. So I think he's got a talking point for the rest of it. And he's always got those 4 belts that he can point to. When people start sniggering, like, try and pick your nose, Jeff. Or something like that. Well, people are prone to do because people are cruel.
I think it's unfair.
Especially young kiddies. Yeah, what's wrong with your hand, Mr. Fennick? Look at my 4 belts.
Yeah.
Son.
I think
what are you looking at, Sonny? Your hand, Mr. Fennick? Well, look at this. 4 belts. Yeah.
Look, I think it's quite wrong to say he'll be able to point. What he'll be able to do is fist. Yes, the 4 belts.
When you think about it.
Roy, look, several things bother me about it, though. I mean, how big a profile does he have? Does Joe now have in Hungary? I mean, it's tremendous to think that here is a man who has been fated, has had a lucky life, charmed life. When you look at it all, escaped from Hungary, the communist regime there as a kiddie, became I think I'm right in saying, the junior discus champion in Britain.
He did.
Moved on to take on the gloves and start hitting people, and took apart Henry Cooper at one stage. Went the distance. People forget that he went the distance with, Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. Those two names. And then, of course, he's come to Australia, become Aussie Joe Bugner. He's done the fighting, he's done the mineral water thing, he's done the wine, he's done the boondle tools, he's done the Broncos management almost, the promotional side, almost.
I think they're regretting that too. Broncos management would have to be regretting that.
They would. I think they're reopening nominations for the position.
Or creating another position for Joe, because the Broncos could get into Hungary with Joe leading the vanguard.
Easing the way in.
Yeah. Now, wearing a Broncos Guernsey in the corner before stripping off.
That's
round one.
Because they're mad about the league there. Now, what it's great to see is somebody of his age and experience putting back in. That's what I like about this thing. He's putting something back in. It's not just take. I mean, he could be in this for 100 mil, because he'd get it. But to limit himself just to 3 or 4 mil is tremendous news. Now,
that makes it attractive for George, too.
Well, of course.
If Joe only wants, to skim off the smallest sliver of cheese.
In the purse.
Yes. Leaving George with the best part of 98, 99 mil, you'd have to say, at least.
Yes.
then that becomes a very attractive proposition.
Now, look, it goes a little bit further. Look, I'm tremendously excited, as you say. I'm a bit worried about how we establish Joe's profile over there and remind people that this person is a Hungarian by birth, that he's done everything. This whole journey has led to this culmination in his life of returning to Hungary and giving something back. The one thing that worries me...
He's a sort of Marco Polo figure, really, isn't he?
A modern
Marco Polo. From the Hungarian perspective, he's gone off with the stick over the shoulder and the rag tied to it with a few bits and pieces in it, and strolled the world as a journey person. Sort of busman's holiday, just picking up a bit here, they're throwing the discus there, throwing the glove there, throwing the wine here, throwing the mineral water there, throwing the tool here, throwing the scene and the acting caper here and there, and then returning to his roots. To Hungary, with that same old stick over the shoulder, but the handkerchief tied on the back just a little bit larger, a little bit more frayed, but a lot more in it, a lot more experience. And to think that he's prepared to stand in the middle of a very, very large soccer stadium there and undo that bag and show people what's in it. After all those years, I think there'll be a lot of people. It must be a torch of hope, too, for a lot of young Hungarians who probably don't see much future for themselves where they are. It must be a bit of a torch in that darkness which is Hungary, in that dark tunnel, that pitch black tunnel with just bat poo landing on your head, pollution everywhere.
Rivers dotted with heavy metals, cadmium and so on.
That's right.
We may be selling Hungary a bit short here, Roy. Aren't we not doing that? Anyway, keep going with the bat poo.
Well, just to see a little bit of light in that tunnel, under the chin of Joe Bugner, Hungarian returns, our Hungarian champion. I think the papers would leap at it. I think the media would leap at it. There'd be a lot of interviews. There'd be acting roles. There'd be dramas there, locally made. Your locally made sort of homicide sort of shows would have Joe as a baddie and then Joe as a goodie, and et cetera, et cetera. Constant interviews, current affairs show. The local Ray Martin would have him on. I think he could explode in Hungary. And my only worry is that what Hungary gains might be Australia's loss.
Well, I can see where you're coming from, but the one thing I feel is that unless Joe is prepared to go between now and when the fight happens, I can see people in Hungary scratching their heads at this person claiming Hungarian ancestry. What I'm hoping is that somebody like Peter Arnett can come out and camp at Joe's place and get him on CNN hour after hour after hour, so the people on the off chance that they're strolling past a set in Hungary can recognise that it's Joe and that he's on his way back. Because that's the sort of clout this thing will need. But I raise another problem, and I hope this doesn't put the mockers on it, because we won a World Championship belt, and at the moment, I think it's the International Boxing Federation's version of the World Heavyweight title that George represents and owns and holds. But George, at the moment, who is 47, would have to complete the IBF problems concerning the great Axel Schulz in Germany. Now, I think he's down for a rematch within 120 days.
Yes.
And I hope this isn't predicated. I hope this wonderful house isn't predicated on the Rusty Foundation or the Krusty Foundation or the Sea-Blowing Foundation that George can beat Axel Schulz in Germany. Because I hate to think, and I hope the IBF aren't blinkered in their view, to think that Axel, should he beat George, should be able to retain the belt. Because this is bugger up Joe's plans for the World Heavyweight title fight, IBF style, to be held in the soccer stadium in Hungary, Budapest, courtesy of CNN in sometime in mid-next year. Have you got any mail on that, Roy?
Well, I'm not sure. Does George have the WBC, WBO and IBF, or is it just WBO, IBF, or is it WBC on IBF?
No, he's only got the IBF.
He's only got the IBF.
I only got the IBF.
Oh, well, this looks bleak, doesn't it? Well, let's draw a worst-case scenario here. Let's say George does lose to Axel Schulz sometime in the next 80 days or so. Would that tarnish a Foreman Bugner fight?
Well, not for me. Not for me. I mean, I'm desperate to see this one come. I booked tickets already. I'm going over for a month around this date, which we can't name.
There will be a whole festival built around it.
A Bugner festival.
A Bugner
He's
festival.
back.
He's back.
He's bigger.
Prodigal son returns.
Can he still talk Hungarian? Or is that a skillless language?
I don't know.
You know, can he order...
It's probably been a fair while between drinks. There'll be certain phrases, I suppose, and words like,
How you going?
Left, right.
Stop.
I'm all right. I'll have one of those. What are you looking at? There'd be a few.
Ice front of your neck.
Yeah, there'd be a few key phrases. he'd haltingly get through a number of interviews. He'd just look a little bit silly to the locals. They'd think, gee, Joe hasn't got much to say. He'd be using the parlance of the 1950s.
Yeah.
And they've moved on, one imagines, quite a little bit, linguistically speaking. There'd be references, modern references and modern idiom.
Things like sex appeal, hamburgers, things like that would have crept into the language.
Yeah, of course.
Now, the other thing I worry about here with regard to this is that I worry that this is a tragic dimension to this, because let's face it, Joe's last fight was in a soccer stadium in England. He basically left Australia and went to wheel a wheelbarrow through England and asking people to chuck money in it, which they did. Now, he was dodging coppers, he was dodging filth every step of the way because of the problems of family. God, I hope there's nothing in the cupboard in Hungary. Let's face it, he was fit, he was lively, he was well developed for his age.
But he was young.
He was young, yes, but not young.
14.
Wow. Yes,
13, maybe 12.
He matured early, Roy.
Oh, I know he did.
He matured early.
I know he did.
I'd hate to see...
But given the mores of Hungary in 1954, you hardly imagine that it was, pants down, in and out at the drop of a hat. Joe's here, hide the girls. It's hard to imagine that... No, it's not. He would have been like that, I suppose.
You only have to think
he was a tearaway, wasn't he?
About it. And I'd hate to see a paternity suit loom. Because let's face it,
20 or 30 Joe lookalikes.
Coming down with a handout for the 4 million. Ringside.
All ringside.
And with the
whole sea of Joes.
Yeah, the coppers coming knocking.
And grandkiddies.
That's right. Here they are, Joe. What have you done about them? They've existed in penniless poverty, if that's not a tautology. Nothing to eat for many years, going to bed cold. Nothing but newspapers to keep them warm at night.
And the bat gear.
That's the bat gear, and pollution, the cadmium, only cadmium-soaked water to drink. What are you going to do?
It would be unnerving to see, let's say he had 10 or 12 kiddies before he left. And let's say they've had a number of kiddies, as they would have done.
Well, we're looking at...
There could be 40 or 50 Joes.
In Hungary, Bugner means the rabbit. That's a little known fact. And so it could be quite possible that you would have this sort of wealth of boxing, amateur, professional, athletic talent.
Well, I think that in modern idiom, with the modern idiom, I think Bugner roughly translates as "don't come back." Hungary's thrown up at Olympic level.
Yes, quite.
I think they have quite a well-credentialed
range of battlers. Well, obviously they threw up Joe.
Do we know? I don't know if Marlene boxes, but does George's Mrs. Box?
I don't think so. No, no.
Because they would have had a nice piquancy about it. I mean, the undercard.
Mrs. B Mrs. F.
Yeah.
I can see that working too. Well, I think that'd be tremendous. And don't tell me that there won't be charter flights going over from the Gold Coast, from Sydney. Just look at your travel agents locally once we are allowed to announce the date.
I think that's right. But if the first was the grandkiddies...
Yes.
Like, say there's a George Foreman III.
Then the missus.
The Joe Bugner... His name might be Bugner because, Joe obviously wasn't... He might change his name to Bugner just for the showbiz angle. But he'd have that Joe look about him, for sure. It's undeniable.
And those
genes are so strong.
Yeah, the stance. Yeah. And the moves. And the weak point in the back of the head.
Probably.
Which is genetic, obviously. And then there'd be...
Then the sons.
Yeah, and then the missuses.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, after this feast, the icing, the strawberry, on top of the cake, the Bugner Foreman cake, is... Joe and George.
Lowered out of helicopters.
Yeah, that's right.
Two big men.
Maybe they could paraglide into the ring with what do you call it?
Flames.
Yeah, flames.
Coming out of the boots.
Yeah, coming out of the boots. Yes, that's right. That's right. And it's great to see people thinking, isn't it? When you see all of this getting together such a short notice, you realise that people have put a lot of thought in
this. Well, see, we've only been across this issue for less than 24 hours.
Less than 24 hours.
You can see some of the ideas. And we're not promoters.
No. No,
it's not our job.
We're no Bill Mortys.
We're no Bill Mortys. We're no, what's the stupid bloke in America?
Bob Arum.
Don King.
Yeah, we've got no angles.
We've got no angles at all. We've got no ideas. So you can imagine when the professionals come in...
On it.
At ground level, as they probably are by now.
Yeah. And blowing the balloon up.
Yes.
Getting it above the gallery. Well, it's fantastic. I'd love to see a Festival of Joe films connected with this. I don't think... Budapest has seen Share Mountain Mystery or, Jake the Bounty Hunter. No, what's the other one? No, that's what he plays.
He plays Jake and another character.
Yeah, that's right. And
Yeah.
The one set on the waterfront?
Well, there are a few spaghetti westerns as well.
Of course, you could get those.
You could get, I'd say it's probably weighing about 20 films.
And didn't he appear...
So you'd have a film festival in the month leading up.
To the fight. And didn't he appear in the one with Kylie and Jean-Claude Van Damme, Street Fighter?
He did.
Yeah.
You'd have it dubbed in Hungarian.
Well, may not need to have it dubbed. You know, obviously, you just run your subtitles.
Oh, subtitle.
Yeah.
Makes it look more...
Australian.
Well, more sort of arts festival,
yeah,
doesn't
that's right. Well, that's the area you got to get in there. Because you'd get the people who were mad boxing buffs coming along.
Your film buffs.
But then to get into your art market, which is where your big lolly lies in a lot of those, you know, Eastern
and you'd
European
have
countries.
a ball,
Central,
obviously, a Joe Bugner ball, either after the bout or the week before it. What if we get a Grand Prix happening there as well?
The Hungarian Grand Prix in the same week.
And you'd have Joe and George driving the funny cars as a warm-up.
It's all there. I'd love to get a bridge opening happening as well. You know, I don't know quite how many bridges they need in Budapest, but I'm sure they need a new one. And I'd love to see them build it.
Because it's two cities fused, Budapest, isn't it?
Yes, so there's
Buda
one.
And there's Pest.
Yeah, there's one on either side of the river.
Wodonga.
Wow,
there are a lot of bridges there.
Yeah. Well, they need another one, I'm sure. So I think that could work. So I think it's all go. It's been pointed out to me that because of the magic of radio, there are hundreds of people driving around in Adelaide, Perth, Melbourne, Hobart, Brisbane, and points in all parts of Australia. You know, I know Broome, Corn, Townsville, Lameroo, Pinaroo, looking for Harris Street, 700 Harris Street. Look, stop now. Stop now. Please, save the petrol, save the planet. The only place where there's 700 Harris Street in Ultimo is in Sydney area. Now, I don't know why somebody suggested I say that, but there I've said it. It's the Sydney Harris Street Ultimo that you need to direct your feet for. And as mentioned, the parking's free.
Yes, that's right. But if you were, say, in Adelaide and you did have a full tank...
Why not give it a go?
Give it a shot. If you could get here in... well, you might only get the last 10 minutes of the show. And if you made good time across the Hay Plain... which you can do, because I know a lot of truckies would be listening, and
12.5 minutes.
They could alert, you know, if you gave your car type and number, they could let you know where, you know, certain police people were with radar traps and could pull over onto the shoulder of the road to let you through. Yes. I reckon you could do it. And if you could get some sort of sponsorship, say if you were in Quorn, where you get a very attractive Devonshire tea there in Quorn, well, they might sponsor you, say, $1 a kilometre. If you get here before the end of the show. You get nothing, of course, if you're killed. But I'd give it a shot if there are a lot of... And I know there are a lot of young kiddies in Adelaide who do like driving quickly. This might be the perfect opportunity to do it legitimately. With sponsorship. You must get sponsorship, and it's not fair if it's just your mum and dad sponsoring you. It's got to be some genuine bona fide company.
Right. And of course...
Maybe a funeral director.
When you arrive...
Because that'd put them in a sort of bind, wouldn't it? Maybe sort of hoping you get there, but wishing you didn't.
That's right. Well, wouldn't that be tremendous? I arrived DOA thanks to, say, for argument's sake, Slaven Funerals.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Proudly sponsored by Slaven Funerals, and I guess the family would pick up the tab to drive you back, wouldn't they? Yeah. Although the sponsorship could extend to on the way back, yes. Because you get a lot of publicity. You know, on your Channel 9 soft stories, fuzzy dog story at the end of the news, it'll be, you know, someone like Tex McKenzie of Quorn in a bold dash to get to 700 Harris Street, Sydney, failed by 20 kilometres when he was found dead on the side of the road on the M2. Proudly sponsored by Slaven Funerals in Adelaide and driven back. Courtesy. Well, driven back by the police.
Yeah. Look, if you are at all worried, I know this location is a bit tricky to find, but we've signposted it pretty well, I think, from Liverpool in the Sydney metropolitan area, how to get to the Gooslands in that direction. Coming down from the east, look for your signs from Hornsby.
Yes.
And in the south, we started at Helensburgh this morning with signs directing people towards the Ultimo 700 Harris Street. And I think that once you get here, I think you'll be surprised how easy it is to get into the room. I must confess, I know a lot of people have stayed away thinking, God, it'll be a bloody monster of a fight to get in, even, is it worth the trouble? I might as well drive up and turn around and go home just to see that I can do the dash.
Yes.
But look, you know...
Well, I think that's what a lot of people are doing. But you could certainly make it from Gosford or Newcastle.
Oh, easy.
As a doddle.
Easy.
You can do Newcastle, Sydney now in less than an hour.
Yes.
At the right time of day. And with the right wheels underneath you.
Oh, well, Yeah,
like your Brock Commodore.
Yeah.
Could get you here in an hour. Yes. I reckon.
Yes, and if you did get here in an hour, you wouldn't be, mozzed by the problem of thinking, well, would I get there for Terps or after Terps?
No.
Now, you're going to miss him entirely.
You're going to miss him entirely, whether you make it or not.
Yes, because he's not coming. That number again,
well, there'll be a lot of people turning doing Uis.
Yes,
throughout the state.
That's right, going back.
Handbrake turns.
Yes,
bugger it.
Terps isn't on, off we shoot. Look, riding high again, old horse, thanks for the memories. It's a beautiful image. I love the idea that the horse, dressed in a pair of +4s, cigar in hand, hat to the jaunty rake and a couple of dames on each fetlock. I don't know why that says it all to me, but that says racing to me. That says the Australian way of racing. And Tennesee Jack, have you ever seen a finer horse, Roy?
No, I don't think so. Tennesee Jack was one of those very rare personality horses, wasn't it? You didn't care whether Tennessee won or not. You just put your money on him in the hope that he'd race again. Because he had such a jaunty swagger. If you could cut him off in the middle and just look at his bum and back bits mincing about. Yes. It was a sort of back end that sort of said, buggy you, mate. You know what I mean? It cocked a snoot at the world. Yes. You could look at his back legs and know that he didn't care about, politics or mining or the problems of balance of payments and this. You knew he didn't care about those things. He cared about different things. He cared about knocking back a couple of beers with a couple of mates after a terrific afternoon at the football. Yes. He loved looking at pictures of Chucky Raper and, you know what I mean? He was the sort of bloke who just swaggered about with a wink in his eye and a bit of a curl on the lip and a bit of a Havana there with a bit of smoke coming up and a bit of a wink and a bit of a tilt of the head. You know what I mean? Tennesee Jack was a real character. And knock 'em down, I don't give a bugger, what are you looking at? Love your gear, love your work, turn around, pants down, all right, off you shoot, you're clean enough. Sort of horse. Roy. You know what I mean? Just a funny friend. Roy. Just the sort of horse that if you'd broken down and you had the bonnet up and you were scratching your head, good old Tennesee Jack would bang on the bottom of the horse float and the car would stop and kadunka. Tennesee Jack would lob over with that sort of, what's your problem, buddy? Look about him. And would just sort of get a hoof up and dunk, dunk, dunk. For no reason, just on the block of the motor and give you that look to say, put the bonnet down and give it another go, buddy. And cloppity back into the back of the float while you were sitting there. And 9 times out of 10, the car would start. And you'd pass him and Tennesee Jack would put his head over the top, bit of a wink. You know what I mean?
I do. You've certainly summed up the Tennesee Jack I knew with that. Look, I'll never forget changing a washer one time at my place. The tap was giving me the pip and I didn't...
Tennessee Jack just was there in the front yard.
I wasn't even thinking of him and he bobbed in. He could see I was in trouble. I was there, as you say, scratching my head. He came in, he tapped the... got a Stilson's, opened up the top of the tap. He put it between both his paws. He had the loud check coat on. He had the cigar clinks between the teeth. He had the press ticket in his hat. Oh, he used to bet him on himself. I'll never forget it. Mark Reed used to love taking $1 or 2 off Tennessee Jack. But look, let's go back to...
I was changing the sheets in the bed. You know how it's a bit of a bugger of a job. You're a big bloke. You have a big bloody king-size bloody bed because you want to spread out a little bit.
Yes.
And I was putting those fitted sheets on and I was having a bit of trouble. Head through the window. Boom. Tennessee Jack. Clenched the sheet in the teeth. Reefed it back.
Yes.
Clip under it went, and then clippity-clop off he went. You didn't have to thank him.
No.
He didn't do it for thanks.
No.
He was just the sort of horse that just did it because he was that sort of horse. That's why I love Tennesee Jack. And that's why I was a little bit disappointed when the screens went out. Mm. I don't like screens. In the same way that... it's often felt that an alluring, flimsy bit of clothing on a human is far more suggestive than just the naked form.
Oh, I know what
you know what I mean? I'm not against nudity per se, but I think if you're going to go for eroticism, and fuck me, who doesn't?
Oh, everybody loves it.
I like to see a little bit of gear draped across. You know, much in the manner of your romantic painters.
Oh, your Renaissance masters.
Your Renaissance masters. You've got to sit down when you look at those paintings because you're imagining what's behind the flimsy bit of gear that's just hiding those...
The fingernails.
Nooky bits of the body.
The knees.
In the same way, when the screens came out with Tennisee Jack, for young kiddies, it was far more horrific imagining what was going on behind the screens than had the screens not been there and you just saw the shotgun cops, the boom, boom, click, boom. Because, to my mind, that's far cleaner and more honest and less horrific and less suggestive than with the screens there, you wonder what's going on, you can see a bit of a murmur, and then boom. So I would have preferred, and Jack would have preferred it. Tennisee Jack would have preferred. Whoever thought, nobody thinks of Tennisee Jack when you're putting him down.
No.
He would have preferred to have gone in front of everyone.
He wanted to shoot himself.
He wanted to, of course, he would have done. Had you just put it near his, one of the working ones.
Yeah, he would have done it.
He would have bloody well done it.
And he wanted to do it with dignity. He wanted to stand up. I could see this in his eye and just have the flatbed truck come up alongside him, shoot himself and fall onto the flatbed truck like that.
He'd have dragged himself onto the flatbed truck and done it there.
Yeah, that's right. Well, speaking of that, I was going to report on the race. It was 2,400 metres long. He did the leg in about the first metre and a half, and he raced on, dragging that dud leg behind him for the next best part of 2,100 metres. All heart, all guts, all horse, Roy.
All horse. Jack,
and he laughed all the way. He was cracking jokes with Darren, who was up there. Darren Goucher, he was flogging the living daylights out of him. And he said, got to the point of the turn, and he said, leave me.
I'm gone, buddy.
I know, I'm gone, buddy. I can't go on.
Yeah. I've given you my best shot. I've given you my heart, Darren.
I know. If I go on, I'm going to cause a scene, Darren, and you won't like it. But Darren kept on belting him, even when the horse was...
Because Darren didn't understand. Darren just thought that, you know how Jack sometimes would race at a tilt? You know, just leading to be smart.
Yeah, that's right.
He'd experiment with, going down at the front. Jack was always doing that for a lark.
Yes.
You know, sometimes he'd hobble around on his knees. Remember that trick he used to do? To amuse the kiddies.
Yeah, that's very funny.
Yeah.
The punters didn't like it.
No, the punters hated that because he wasn't as quick, I didn't think, on the knees as he was on the horse. But Jack was that sort of horse.
Yeah.
And as you say, I think Jack would have liked to have gone in his own way. I think Jack would have liked to have swallowed a hand grenade.
Wow.
I think Jack would have liked everyone there, including the kiddies, to go home with a little bit of him.
Just on them.
Just wearing proudly a little bit of Tennisee Jack on your shirt or on your trouser or wherever it might lob. You know, just so you could say to neighbours, if they said, what's that? It's a bit of Tennisee Jack.
Yeah. Do you know the other disappointing thing was, I know Tennisee Jack, and this will surprise a lot of people, was a fully qualified orthopaedic surgeon. And I would have liked to have seen him operate on himself, or at least given himself a chance of doing the op himself.
Because no one had the presence of mind or forethought to take out a scalpel for Jack, did they?
No.
They just went out with the shotty.
That's all.
And said, screens, please. Buggy here, Jack. Screens, please. Boom, and that was it. I thought it was most unedifying to what I think will be always remembered, like Chook Raper, as one of the great champions of this country.
Last weekend we saw a magnificent round of golf climax, obviously with the Wales win at St Andrews. Two aspects of this match I thought, with this competition, I thought were very, very interesting, was the display as John Daly realised he had one of the nudist with the Daubing's Chook Raper style on his back running about, and previous to that the attractive presentation of the Rose by a Nick Faldo supporter at a very crucial time for Nick, which I think buggered up his game totally.
Was that on the 9th or the 10th?
Well, it was certainly within time to ruin Nick's charge for the purse on offer in the Open there. Roy, where do you stand on intrusions into golf, especially by the public? I mean, it's all very well to, have the crowd shout out, "Shark, you're a joke. Shark, you're a choker," just as he goes for those vital putts, which is, I think, now accurate reportage. But, to have people running about, obviously pulling the head and offering you things in the most unattractive. How would have you dealt with those two incidents?
Yes, it set, I think, a very unfortunate precedent because all hell broke loose. I mean, it's been a very thin wall, the wall between golfers and the gallery over the years, and I can see a time when screens are going to have to be put along every fairway to keep people out. Because everyone, let's face it, everyone wants to be part of and have contact with golfers. Golfers exude a very, very special and interesting magic. Everyone wants to be part of what's going on out there, to wit, Arnie's army. Just to look, Arnold Palmer on the box when you're watching television, nothing much comes through. But to see Arnold Palmer live, to see him there in the flesh, to see Arnold Palmer swaggering about with a loose set of trousers and a cardigan and a very attractive check shirt, just near you with a club. Honestly, all you want to do is go over and be part of it, to be with him, touch him, to touch him, to fiddle about with him.
Go the grope.
Do you want to go the grope? You feel like running out and tackling him and getting him down and rolling around and about and and having a look inside his mouth and undoing the trouser and having a look and lifting the underpant and having a bit of a look there and taking a sock off and having a... You know what I mean? Having a look at his niblick, lift the shoe over and see where it's rubbing, see if he walks a little to the right or a little to the left, to see how he dresses, to stand him up and pull him around and just see where the bulge is on the left or the right. All these sorts of minutiae, these sorts of details. You want to get his hanky out and have a bit of a look against the sunlight, just to see what sort of state the mucus is in, and that sort of stuff. You want to have a look in his pocket and see if there are any little notes there, like, "I love you, Arnie." And you think, well, who's that from? And you put it back in. "Sorry, Arnie," off you go with your shot. When you're finished, when he gets back up and you dust him off and put his cardigan back on, lift the trouser back up and do the belt up and put the sock back on and put the shoe back on, tie up the niblick, put the club back in his hand and go back and stand in the gallery and say, "Come on, Arnie, off you go now." You want to be part of it. Same with Nick Faldo. I thought it was a beautiful gesture when the rose came out and the theatrical way he responded to it. Totally Nick, totally unrehearsed, was just Nick falling over and with enormous showbiz and pizzazz, because that is Nick Faldo. If there was a torch, a lighted candle, some agitated electrons on a substance that gave out light that was in the presence of or in the visage of Arnold Palmer, and now he's gone, I think it has been passed to Nick Faldo, because he is now, I think, golf's excitement machine. Now, to see Nick there, to see that woman burst through and break down that invisible barrier that's been there for thousands of years, since the first time somebody knocked a stick with a rock and it went into a hole and someone thought, boy, this could really work as a game. Ever since that day, that invisible barrier, and that invisible barrier has been broken. This is what worries me. The next time that Nick Faldo's out, everyone, millions of people, hundreds of millions of people will have roses wanting to go out and give it to him. And I can see a day when there are going to have to be Wormald security guards surrounding every golfer, 10 or 20 of them, just forming a wall, a human wall, to keep people away. And I think this will be the curse upon golf, what's happened with Nick Faldo. It worries me enormously, because I want golf to be as it was. I want it to be a simple, harmless, kind, generous, giving game, where you just see extremely poorly dressed, dull human beings wandering around doing stupid things with sticks and little balls. That's what I want golf to stay. And I don't think it can if this invisible barrier is broken, and it troubles me that it is.
On the other hand, those two people did bring a touch of tomorrow to the great game there at St Andrews, and I'm wondering if we would have remembered it at all, apart from the whale bagging the fruit.
Yes.
There was hardly any memories to emerge from it.
Yes, well, it's the thin edge of the wedge, isn't it? I mean, everyone's going to turn up, say, at St Andrews, if it's there in next year or the year after. It might go to Troon next year, and then back to St Andrews. Everyone is going to be turning up nude with 19 tattooed on their buttocks or texted on. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing for golf. Don't get me wrong. As long as they know where they stand, as long as they stay within the precincts of the gallery, I think that could be very, very attractive. Sure, on a cold blustery day at Troon, you've really got to, love your golf to bear all and wear the 19 and nude up for the best part of 4 days. And maybe people will go to the trouble of doing that. And I can just see it dragging more and more people, because I know everyone I've spoken to subsequently has said, I'd love to nude up and have 19 on my bottom and go and see Arnold Palmer. Everyone I speak to, not that you'll be able to again, but let's say Nick Faldo or the Dark Shark or Bretty Ogle or Fuzzy Zeller in particular. I'd love to have 19 on my buttocks bared when Fuzzy, bursts through onto the 12th, for example. So I think it could work, and I'd like to see a little bit more of it. But please give the players what I'd call personal space. Give them room to swing.
You can forget that magnificent 60 minutes profile of Warwick Capper in which we saw the great, I think it was Bob Bongo Pritchard, at work with Warwick, trying to get him to learn Hamlet. Slings and arrows of outrageous fortune speech. Yeah. And that worked very well with Warwick, and I'd love to think that Brad could do the same.
Yes. Look, I think it's an excellent idea for young athletes, elite athletes.
Yes.
Who probably haven't been used to the responsibilities that come with the task. It's a package. When you become an elite sports person and you're in great demand from the media, you have a duty to yourself, and I think to the code that you represent, to put the best feet forward in each inst. It's not good enough in 1995, nor was it good enough in 1975, nor was it good enough in 1935, just to be able to let your sport do the talking. You've had to be able to deal with the media. And for so long now, I've been, and you have, we both have been prosecuting the cause of getting kiddies who show athletic possibilities in early age into speech therapy, comprehension, perhaps a grammar. It's just to give them a framework upon which they can build their professional lives.
Yeah. Or even a simple sentence.
Or even a simple sentence.
Like when Fatty asks you, Brad, what have you been doing recently? You don't tell him you've been basically out on the terps doing bugger all. You say...
You gild the lily.
That's right. Obviously there's been a list of jobs that I haven't been able to get to during the football season.
Yes.
I've made notes of these and left them on the fridge. I am beginning to work through these one by one. I've started at the top, and so far I've painted the back fence. I did this by going to, and hence Fatty will go and leave you alone after that.
I think that's very good. And I think it's and I know Brad is listening, because Brad's a very, he enjoys listening to the program. And if he's, being sensible this afternoon.
I was going to say, if he's sober, enough to find the dial, which is unlikely in his case.
If you're on your pins, Brad, and the ears are open, this is for you. I would preface such a question with, thanks for your question, Fatty.
Yes, and thanks for your questions generally, Fatty.
Yes.
Thanks for what you've done. Thanks for taking an interest. Thanks for looking after the league so professionally, Fatty.
Yes.
And maybe sometimes turn it back and say...
Yes. What have you been up to,
that's
Fatty?
Right. Yes, that's right.
You've done bugger all as nearly as I can tell, etc., etc., etc. Not that you use racy sailors' language like we sometimes do when our professional guard slips ever so slightly. But I agree with you. I think, Fatty, thank you very much for your splendid question. My answer is as follows. I have been very, very busy in a number of ways. But I'm still a young man in the prime of my life, and there are bits of, wild things that I get up to that I'd really only like to refer to ever so fleetingly here on your excellent and splendid program. That is, I've imbibed, I had a number of fortified brews the other night with close friends, and had a haircut. And apart from that, as I might have mentioned earlier, the back fence is painted, and I've done a little bit of work with the kids in general, getting out to schools and doing a little bit of counselling.
You know what?
You know what I mean? And I think you're right. That way, the credibility of himself is enhanced, the credibility of the sport is enhanced, and it's a very nice beacon, a shining light. It's a bolt of electricity for kiddies out there who want to grab electricity. They'll be lured towards the very safe power being generated by the custodian or captain of a state.
You know, the irony of all of this is, remember when King Wally Lewis was the captain of Australia.
I do.
Obviously, he could handle the media very, very astutely, but this didn't prevent him from being often a prize prick around the place at other times. I witnessed, of course, State of Origin nights at Rosie's, where monstering women as they were going to the toilet was considered de rigueur by the whole Queensland side, led by one Wally Lewis. And I think I would hesitate or counsel Brad with this. Brad, it doesn't matter what you do in your own private life. You can do what you bloody well like. You can be Terry Hill for all I care. But when you do go on the footy show, remember that this is a flagship program by the people who own one half of the game, and that is the ARL. Never mind how rotten and corrupt and stinking that is, Brad. You've taken their money, and so what they expect from you, Brad, is a little bit of sober common sense. And after all, Brad, isn't $900,000 a week worth it? Isn't $900,000 a week a lot of embalming on the pain of playing their game?
Yes.
And as Roy points out, it doesn't, require a lot of time of yours. It might require 20 minutes on air max. You don't have to answer any of their stupid questions. You can say what you like, as long as it's said in a sober and and a factual manner.
That's right. That's right. Look, I agree with you 100% here, HG, that there is a duty to prop up the image of the game.
Well, that's right.
It doesn't matter if the core is rotten. If it is, as long as it looks either glossy green or red on the outside, that's all people want to see. And that's the way it's always been. I appreciate that there is a Dickensian distance between appearance and reality. And it's very, very disappointing when reality and appearance coincide in truth, such as occur on the footy show, where, someone who is the captain of Australia, who has been out behaving like a hoon, demonstrates that he's been behaving like a hoon.
Well, that's the problem.
People don't want to see that.
No.
It's what I call a turn-off.
Look,
it ill behoves the game. The game. Captains of Australia for eons have been selfish mongrels. We know that. You can list them. Lewis, etc., Reg Gasnier, absolute reprobate. And I'm sure he'd agree.
Vice Captain Mossop, away with the fairies.
Trousers down,
most of his
flute akimbo, in public, at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
No control over himself. Yet put him on screen.
Tremendous
Once the red light went on the camera. Thank you very much. I'm Vice Captain of Australia, Rex Mossop is my name, and I've been very busy. I've been very busy this week in a most productive way, etc., etc. And I think that's
red light
important.
goes off?
Yeah. The trousers are down.
Yeah, who's got the bun? All this sort of stuff. That's the thing.
But that's what we love about football. We love that about them. We love them all. They're lovable rogues.
Yes, and backdoor Benny Elias. Let's face it, I've had a stink with Benny ever since he basically came out.
Yes. Armadale. Let's not forget Armadale.
Armadale, yes, of course, with Steve Martin. We haven't forgotten your part in that, Steve Martin, either. Now, the other thing is that at least when he was on the media, tremendous
as he is today with Zorba and Hollywood.
Indeed, tremendous, can score from anywhere on the paddock.
Yes. Lovely use of the cliche.
Tremendous. I've got my hat off to him, quite literally. His ambassadorial role in the code. But it's an absolute, as Roy says, mongrel away from it. But we have warned people not to be associated with him week in, week out on this program.
Right.
We do the same with Freddie Fittler.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with people being idiots in their private lives in the confines of their own home. Look at Mark Dyer.
Yes.
He was the same sort of bent.
That's right.
But then when they come on the television program, they have to play by Quayle and Arco's rules. And as I point out, 900,000...
and public expectations.
Yes,
public expectations. You've got to give the public what they want. If the public is addicted to illusion, who are we to make judgments?